My first love, Tina, who I grew up with, got pregnant before getting married and was kicked out by her family. I couldn't bear it, so I proposed to her and promised to treat the child as my own. 6 months later, her missing boyfriend came back, and he had become a famous business magnate. Because of this, she started to hate me. She thought I ruined her chances of being with him, teamed up with my enemy, and set me up. Reborn again, I decided not to meddle and let her face her own consequences. But then she regretted it. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when Tina was explaining her affair with photos in her hand. Tina didn't care. She threw the pictures right in my face. A nouveau riche like you should be lucky I agreed to get engaged with you. Why do you care what I do outside? I rubbed my cheek that was stinging from her slap and finally realized it wasn't an illusion. If you hadn't pestered me then, do you think I would have even considered you? Her so-called upper-class friends backed her up too. Are all nouveau riches like this? Thinking women with you must follow the old rules and be your subordinate? You're so low. It's the new era. I'm a modern woman. Don't try to guilt-trip Tina. She sounded all righteous as if she wasn't the one crying for my help before. Half a year ago, her family found out that she was switched at birth, and soon after, the real daughter was found. Instead of trying to get along, she made things difficult for her sister. Her parents, concerned about appearances, didn't kick her out until her boyfriend disappeared. She got pregnant and tried to frame her sister. That's when she was driven out. With no money and nowhere to go, she came to me. I'll give you a chance to make me love you. But before that, you can't force me to do things I dislike, and you have to let me live as before. Feeling sorry for her and still having lingering feelings, I agreed. I never expected the cost of pity to be so high. Tina's missing boyfriend reappeared as the son of a business tycoon. She was overjoyed, thinking she could climb up to a mega-rich status through their child. But when she sought him out, she was harshly turned away. That man looked at her and said coldly, "A woman married to someone else is already dirty." Instead of blaming her heartless boyfriend, she turned the hate on me, thinking I ruined her dream of being a rich wife. She ended up in bed with my enemy, leading to my downfall. Modern era, modern women. I nodded, acknowledging her belief. Tina, you're right. You're a modern woman, and I respect that. I believe you'll keep insisting on your independent, modern identity, not relying on anyone. Her ego swelled with my words, her elegant neck held high. You're absolutely right. I kept praising her. I was too self-centered before and didn't see what you needed. That's my fault. From today on, I won't make that mistake. To help you truly embrace independence as a modern woman, I'm setting you free. Let's break up. And rest assured, I'll stop your supplementary card immediately. Money is just so common and would hinder your path to independence. Tina's eyes shifted from pride to blankness. What do you mean? You're breaking up with me? She stared in disbelief. You said it. Don't regret it. Regret? Not a chance in this lifetime. Before leaving, I went over to the restaurant and canceled my VIP card. While dating, I found out she loved this place, so I paid for a membership to make her dining there more fun. The fee alone was tens of thousands a month. My money doesn't just fall from the sky. I could have spent it on dogs who'd at least wag their tails. On her, all I got were cold stares. After I left the restaurant, I went with friends to a bar. Not long after sitting down, I got a call from Tina. She sounded frantic. What did you do? Why doesn't the restaurant card work? Leaning on the sofa with a glass of wine in hand, I casually reminded her, I respect your independence. I'm just a nouveau riche. Maybe my money isn't quite fitting for a modern woman like you. I hung up. Eric, my closest friend, came over cautiously. Did you really break up with her? I nodded. He looked relieved, patting his chest. I knew Ben wasn't dumb in love. She was clearly taking advantage of you. You gave her money, connections, even helped her snobby friends find jobs. They were so bratty to you too. Ben, I'll be blunt. I think relationships should be mutual. You're good to me. I'm good to you. One-sided effort or exploitation won't last. I nodded, down the wine. I sighed inwardly, realizing that after all these years, my buddies seem to get life more than I do. A few other friends also shared their thoughts with me. That's when I realized how mistaken I was in the past. Tina mentioned she felt some of the guys look down on her since she has no family backing her up. They act all handsy, especially Eric. He even tried to keep her as a mistress before. I was furious when I heard that and started avoiding any event where Eric would show up. Over time, our relationship became distant. But now I see Eric wasn't the one in the wrong. He's just a bad guy pretending to be innocent. We drank until the early hours, and when I stepped out to get some fresh air, I ran into two people I'd rather avoid forever. My archenemy, Oscar, was smoking in the corner with someone familiar, Tina's long-lost ex, Owen. By some twist of fate, I was hidden by a tall money tree. The dim light kept me unnoticed for a while. You need to lay low a bit longer. Wait until Ben marries that woman, it'll be more impactful then. Just making him a cuckold isn't enough. It's more fun when he's blindsided by someone he cares about, Oscar said. Hearing that, I started having suspicions. Maybe my past death wasn't as straightforward as I thought. Sure enough, Oscar's next words confirmed my fears. Bro, you're sly. Pretending to be poor to get close to the Song family's adopted daughter. Pulling her into bed with just a finger crook. Ben thinks she's all pure and faithful, and here you are, playing her out. Once they're married, I'll show up to freak out that woman Tina. We'll make her get the insider info on Ben's project bids, and then we'll easily bring him down. I chuckled in anger. Part of me wanted to beat them up, but I figured that'd be too easy on them. Since they enjoy putting on an act, it's time to play along. But from now on, I'll be the one writing the script. The next morning, I headed to the film set early. I'd invested in this production, and Tina was initially cast as the female lead. I needed to sort that out. To my surprise, I ran into Tina right away. She was trying on costumes, surrounded by her clique. The moment they saw me, the snide remarks started. Oh, didn't you two break up? Why's he here the moment he hears Tina's trying on costumes? What a loser, right? Tina shot me a sarcastic smile. I knew she was cursing me inwardly. She forgot that these days having money means you're the boss, and she's just surviving off of my wealth. I signaled the makeup artist to come over. He saw me and was about to leave, but I stopped him. No need to do her makeup. We're recasting this role. The girls around Tina widened their eyes. In their world, love is everything and I'm just a suck-up. So, after not groveling, I actually dared to make things worse without apologizing. One girl, letting her imagination run wild, pointed at me and yelled, Ben, you shameless pig, are you out to get Tina out of hate and force your love upon her? I was speechless, wondering where their brain cells had vanished. It seemed her friends agreed with her, looking at me with disgust and disdain. Bet this money-hungry jerk's thinking, if you don't love me, I'll make sure you don't succeed in this industry. Such a typical move. So gross. Can't have her, so he wants to ruin her. Why's this trash still alive? Tina seemed to envision the same scene, her eyes filled with disdain when she looked at me. I didn't waste time explaining and left with the makeup artist. This was my first TV drama investment, and I wasn't going to just mess around. A bunch of up-and-coming stars came for auditions today, dressed much better than Tina. I asked the director to organize the casting. As they auditioned, each shone differently. I told the director, don't think about anything else. Just make the web series visually appealing. Pick the right fit, not just the pricey faces. In my past life, I gave Tina the lead role straight away. She was supposed to act as a peerless beauty but didn't even compare to an extra in a web series. She was terrible and pretentious. Her lack of emotion led to poor line delivery, and the web series tanked. Thinking about it now, Mike was right. I gave Tina and her hangers-on opportunities, spending money, putting in effort, and all I got was an ungrateful attitude. Feeling even angrier, I contacted my secretary to cut off everyone I helped through Tina. If they were in my company, fire them. If they were in others, ask to get rid of them. Soon enough, some of her friends started calling. I only took one call. This guy I had marked as Tina's uncle, her real family. Ben, what's going on at your company? I got fired. Tina's mom told you to take good care of me. I'm her real uncle and this is how you treat me? Guess I need to call Tina's mom and spill the tea about you. I laughed. This uncle had the nerve to call. He was probably harassing a junior employee when HR fired him, using the excuse of being related to me to bully girls. How did I tolerate this parasite before? No worries, make the call. Tina and I are done. As of today, your family's issues are none of my concern anymore. Done? How could Tina? I couldn't be bothered thinking about how angry they might get over there. Seeing the director looking more and more satisfied, I knew that I nailed the lead role for this drama. I reached out and patted the director on the shoulder. If this show does well, I'll cover half of the sponsorship for your next one too. The director looked at me with gratitude in his eyes. Don't worry about it. Since you've started it off, I'll make sure we get things done right. You see, even someone who doesn't know you well will be thankful for some help. It's a shame not everyone is like that. I had a business meeting with Mike that afternoon, so I was waiting for him outside. While waiting, Tina called. Lately, she's been calling quite a bit. Back in the day, if I didn't call her for weeks, she wouldn't reach out. In her eyes, I was probably just some walking ATM. Only when she needed cash would she think of me. I didn't answer. Instead, Mike's car arrived. I just closed the car door when a brick suddenly smashed into the windshield. Tina was like a madwoman, rattling my car door. When I didn't get out, she started banging on the window. The urgency on her face was something I'd never seen before. Mike glanced at me, a bit worried. Ben, do you think Tina is in some kind of trouble? I handed him my phone, unfazed. Call the cops. If it's urgent, that's what they're there for. A mischievous smile flashed on Mike's face. Ben, you're playing it big. But I like it. Go big or go home. Before long, the police arrived and restrained her. That's when she panicked and frantically tried to explain. I'm in a relationship with the person in this car. We just had an argument, you misunderstood. That's when I rolled down the window and shook my head to the officer. Nah, we're not together anymore. This is my friend's car, and she just attacked it without saying anything. That sounds like property damage, right? Officer, I hope you handle this fairly. We want to press charges. Hearing those last words, Tina's face turned pale. When she looked at me, I couldn't tell if she was more hurt or shocked, but I just felt relieved. In my past life, that's how it went. Oscar drugged me and I ended up with some sick call girl. I was out of it and locked myself in the bathroom, calling her for help. But she said I was interrupting her beauty sleep and hung up. I had to call some good friends to avoid a big mess. The call girl even flipped the script, saying I assaulted her. Tina testified vaguely, and without the final tests proving I didn't do anything, I would have been stuck. That's when I woke up. I thought we needed to break up. Why should I be with someone so heartless? But when I got home, she was on the balcony, threatened with her pregnancy to jump. I was terrified. She said if I abandoned her, she might as well die since no one loved her anyway. My breakup intentions disappeared. Looking back, I was dumb. Keeping such trouble around is a torture to others. Eventually, though, the officer couldn't take her away. Tina wasn't an idiot. Seeing I was serious, she sat on the ground, crying and holding her belly. At 5 months along, she was showing. The officer was worried and took her to the hospital. I wasn't letting her off easy. I had my lawyer send her a compensation notice. At the party, lights flashing, my phone was heating up from calls. I sipped my drink and finally answered as the battery was about to die. Tina's voice was shaking. Ben, why are you doing this to me? You know I'm broke now. How can I pay you back? I laughed. Even siblings need clear accounts. An ex should be as good as dead. But you started this. Tina was stunned. She might think I was trying to win her back. She had no clue I was truly done with her. Mike leaned in, teasing. Happy now? Ben doesn't want you anymore. Ben, see those girls eyeing you? Someone might have a crush on you. Tina screamed out, don't flatter yourself. Who'd want a nobody like Ben? I felt this scene was dragging. I hung up and sent a message to my private investigator. Give Tina some info about Owen. After all, he's the kid's real dad. In my past life, that guy hated me so much he joined forces to ruin me. Now, I'll just make sure she reunites with him sooner. They're both single. He can't just abandon his baby's mom, right? Sure enough, unable to pay me back. Tina took the info about Owen and went to him. When she found out Owen was some rich heir, she wasn't mad. Instead, she reveled in revenge. She called me that day, voice full of arrogance. "You want your money? Huh? Watch me show you what real wealth is." I knew why she changed. She must have found out about Owen's background. I arranged for Mike to come along. It was his car that got smashed. He had every right to be there, too. When we arrived, Tina was standing by a car, arms crossed, looking at me with disdain. And nobody gets worked up over a few grand. Classless. Mike wasn't having it, shot back with a snide look. "You look down on a nobody? Forgot whose stuff you've been using these months? Who dragged you home when you were looking like a lost puppy?" I gotta say, Tina, you're pretty impressive. You complain about your benefactor as soon as they've put food on your plate. Wouldn't be surprised if you picked that up from your nasty mom. Actually, who am I kidding? You're definitely two peas in a pod. How else would you pull off playing dumb just because you couldn't shell out a few $1,000 and now act all high and mighty? Found yourself a new sugar daddy? Huh? Does your new guy know you're a total backstabber? Ben's done so much for you, and you go and cheat on him. Honestly, taking care of you is worse than caring for a dog. Tina's face went dark with anger, but she didn't say a word, just looked away, as if waiting for something. Waiting for Owen, maybe? Sure enough, in no time, the three traveling companions noticed something was off. Tina's demeanor instantly changed from prideful to a poor victim, tears welling up fast. "You don't have to be so aggressive. It was just a little accident with your car, right? I'll pay you back immediately." She locked eyes with the guy in the middle of the trio, her eyes showing longing and love, and quickly walked over to him, clutching his watch website passionately. "Owen, I thought something happened to you. I looked for you everywhere. I have so much to tell you. I'm pregnant, it's yours. We're gonna have our first baby." Owen's expression cracked. He glanced nervously at the girl standing beside him. She was stunning, dressed elegantly. Hearing Tina's words, what once was a smiling face turned cold fast. She looked at Owen, scoffed, and stormed off. Owen wanted to run after her but was held back by Tina. Tina was blind to the situation and kept on professing her feelings, telling him how hard things had been for her. I just watched the girl's retreating figure and chuckled. Isn't that the woman who ended up marrying Owen in our previous lives? She sure upped his net worth by quite a stretch. Now, with this drama, the future looks dicey. With how things escalated, Owen wasn't mad. Imagine how deep his facade runs. He showed apparent affection, held Tina's hand, and paid off the debt. But who would have thought the next day I was trending online? The headline was straightforward. Something like wealthy playboy dumps pregnant rich girl, and millionaire heir protects his first love. I was labeled the heartbreaker. Heard the girl smashed her car in anger when she found out she was being played, and the jerk actually made her pay for it. Such shamelessness. Players like him should just drop dead. Anyone know which company this guy runs? I'm boycotting his products for sure. Scrolling through all the hate comments aimed at me, I wasn't upset. Just waiting to see what would come next. Tina was touched to see so many people speaking up for her. The content wasn't what mattered, but the fact that many saw the wealthy as vulgar despite their riches. You can go to any lengths for what you want. She went live that night, swearing to take me down. Owen and I were truly in love. If it weren't for the twist of fate and him butting in, I would have never been with him. He's loaded and powerful, while Owen and I are just regular folks. It's already tough enough for ordinary people these days. At first, folks online sympathized with her, thinking I was some jerk buying love with money. Especially with the label nouveau riche floating around, plenty assumed I was a fat, middle-aged guy. A young, beautiful girl choosing me in her prime, getting pregnant, then being dumped. It's a perfect story. I hit back by posting the chat history between me and Tina online. As for being fat and greasy, actors I've invested in stepped up to vouch for me. Ben is the most handsome investor I've ever met. Tina's like the ultimate drama queen. It feels like she's marketing emotions, saying, "If you love me, you must love everyone I love." And the guy is super loyal, huh? Thought she'd change her mind. Rich and handsome, not to mention loyal, why isn't there someone like that for me? From that moment, the public opinion started to shift. Those who initially said they'd boycott my company's products began to hold back, partly out of guilt and partly to see the drama unfold. After all, gossip in the entertainment world is common, but juicy high society scandal is rare. They just gotta see it through from start to finish. I get their mindset and think this wave of attention can be a good thing. Handled right, it could boost my business. I went back to my own account and posted directly on Facebook. Tagged the two main people involved. After being under fire, I didn't want to say much, but I can't let this topic affect those around me. Owen, as a man, instead of owning up to your responsibilities, you're playing petty games. Tina, you know whose child you're carrying. Tina, who was basking in her rising live stream numbers, thought she was going viral, not realizing people were there to bash her. Tina, at first, I thought you were the victim. You look so innocent. But who knew you'd be so wild on the down low? You're just taking advantage of Mr. Ben's affection, tarnishing his name. Do you even deserve that? Tina watched the hateful comments roll in, her eyes quickly turning red. You guys must be Ben's hired trolls. Supporting Ben? Who do you think you are? She can't fight against all these internet users alone. It didn't take long before she couldn't even speak anymore. Desperately, she looked to Owen beside her and said, Owen, send these people a lawyer's letter. They're just as low as Ben. I want to sue them till they have nothing left. She was getting more and more agitated, speaking nonsensically, and even dragged Owen into it. By the time Owen realized it, it was too late. He was so mad he slapped Tina. Shut up. Who let you say I was here? The live stream ended abruptly, and Tina's face disappeared from the video. Looking at this woman, I suddenly felt a bit estranged. How did I ever fall for her in the first place? It was probably from a childhood encounter. My dad made some money from investments, just enough to get us into this social circle, and brought my mom and me from the countryside to live with him. Entering the big city, I felt uneasy living in a big house with only a few people around. Kids of the same age, living in the same neighborhood, would pick on me for that. One time, they took it too far and locked me in a basement warehouse. It was really cold and suffocating down there. My cries for help got weaker and weaker. Just when I was about to pass out, a little girl opened the door. That's how I first met Tina. Little did I know, the innocent and kind girl from back then would turn out like this. It's really disheartening. I was getting a lot of attention on Facebook. Put the three of us on the front page of social news. Many people stood by me. Mike texted me, saying a lot of folks on Facebook are boycotting Owen stuff, and this has caused a huge stir. It even affected Owen's family's stocks. You can imagine how mad his family was. Owen was the first to bear the brunt of their anger, ending up in the hospital and having his bank card cut off. Tina got kicked out as well. Mike warned me to watch out so I don't get tangled up again. He was right. Tina came to me when she had nowhere else to go. The cleaning lady wasn't aware of our breakup and let her in. Tina shoved a suitcase towards me, looking humiliated. Ben, you really planned this well, knowing it'd make me come back to you. Fine, I'm back now. Delete the stuff on Facebook. Don't you know you're ruining me with that? I looked at her quietly and smirked. Miss Tina, I think you misunderstood. I haven't posted anything to ruin you. I was just stating facts. Hope you understand that we're not related anymore, and I've never thought about bringing you back into my life. So I really don't want you. I called the housekeeper to escort her out. Tina wasn't useful anymore. I heard she went to the hospital to ask Owen for money to stay in a hotel but got thrown out again. Desperate, she recalled the time when she was first kicked out of her family. She wanted to get back with me, trying to engineer a chance meeting, but Mike messed it up every time. Mike had to tell me about it. I didn't want my buddy to keep getting dragged into the same mess. But, sure enough, I ran into her at a club the next day. She was clearly pregnant and a bunch of guys were forcing her to drink, completely ignoring her condition. She couldn't resist and drank tearfully. When she caught a glimpse of me, her tears were like broken pearls, falling endlessly. Ben, please help me. I paused my steps, pulled out my phone, and dialed the police. Before leaving, I glanced at the open-door surveillance of the club. I heard commotion coming from the private room. The men forcing her to drink were calling for help. Owen, we've been double-crossed. That punk called the cops. Help us out and don't let my family hear about this. I understood what was going on. It was a business tactic they loved to use. They must have noticed the attention I was getting online, with many speaking up for me. This was a double-edged sword. If I had gone to help her, the surveillance footage would have likely been edited and posted online. I could almost predict the reactions. Some might think Tina and I were getting back together. Those who had condemned Tina would feel betrayed. The other possibility was if I didn't intervene, I'd be seen as cold-hearted. They didn't see my third option coming. Tina did end up in the hospital because she drank too much, the pregnancy was unstable, and she got too emotional. She lost the baby. Owen didn't visit her because he had his hands full. The friends he had called to help were all sons of wealthy families. Unlucky for him, helping led them straight to jail. He spent money and pulled strings to get them out, but word still spread. Those families went directly to Owen's family to find out what went down. I didn't know all the details, but what I did know was Owen was finished. He got booted out of his family's decision-making circle and would never have a share of their wealth again. Oscar lost his right-hand man, but things weren't over just yet. I sought out Tina. She couldn't even afford her hospital bills, so I paid them. For the first time, she looked at me with something other than disdain. "Are you here to laugh at me?" She lay on the bed, eyes blank. I shook my head and placed a card on the nightstand, but felt no sympathy anymore. "That day I wanted to help you. It was you who pushed me away." She seemed dazed, covering her eyes with her hand. "But now it's too late. I have nothing left." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "They don't want me anymore. Their real daughter came back, they raised me, then tossed me aside. Owen changed on me, he promised to treat me well forever." I chuckled angrily and showed her a video on my phone. It was a recording when Owen's connection to Oscar was discovered. "Bro, you're really good. Pretend to be a poor guy to get close to that adopted girl. With just a gesture, you had her in bed. Ben thought she was some kind of saint when you had her already. Once they marry, I'll show up to shake Tina. Get her to help with Ben's company's bids, and we'll crush him without much effort." Tina's expression went from sadness to hatred. "He tricked me, he deceived me, he was using me all along." "Why?" She seemed to understand, finally looking at me. "I got it," she realized, "because of my past feelings for her. Want revenge?" To those two brothers, Tina was just someone to toy with. They never cared. But often, it's those small players that sting the worst. "I can help you. Just taking down one brother isn't enough. I always go for the root." I handed her a bank card, letting her choose. The decision was hers. My role was to observe from the sidelines. Thankfully, Tina found the right path herself. Just like in the past, she discovered how to get close to Oscar fastest. I made it seem like I still had feelings for her. Sure enough, Oscar bit the bait. He started approaching Tina more often, even inviting her out for drinks. I sat at the next table, quietly listening to Oscar talk. "Tina, Owen likes you. He's just had this mental purity thing since he was young. He's always been about monogamy. When he got distant, it was because he believed you were with Ben. You need to understand him." I sipped my water while listening to Oscar's nonsense. Tina acted sad, but inside, she hated those brothers to the core. "I was just using Ben. Oscar, help me. How can I get back with him?" Oscar pondered for a while before sighing. "I know Ben's been showing interest in you again. Our family already has a standoff with him. He's getting popular online, and I've heard the third party over there wants private talks. If you get Ben's bid, I'll persuade Owen for you." Tina bit her lip, finally nodding. "Okay." The day Tina stole the bid papers, she invited Oscar to a hotel. He didn't suspect a thing, thinking Tina was deeply in love with Owen. So, without any guards up, he drank what Tina offered him. The next day, the news about the Oscars family was everywhere. The eldest son of the Oscars family was involved in a scandal, forcing himself on a woman, making social headlines. The two Oscars brothers faced issues, leading people to criticize the family values. This domino effect caused instability in their stocks again. To appease public anger, the family had to sacrifice someone. Oscar was the one to go. In this generation of the Oscars family, there were many young talents. Losing one or two wasn't a big deal. There are always new stars ready to step up. But it wasn't over yet. Oscar found me. He seemed to learn there was someone behind these events. Ben, you're so ruthless. I chuckled but didn't say anything. No matter how ruthless, you weren't as bad as you were in our past life. In the previous life, Oscar and Tina set me up. After taking all my businesses, they didn't stop. They wanted to eliminate every trace of me. Some of my closest buddies, those who would take a bullet for me, sensed something was off and tried to investigate. But Oscar took them out too. And that's not all. My mom, who was peacefully living in the countryside, was found by him. When she learned about my death, she died, losing a child in her old age. When it comes to being ruthless, I'm not even close to him. Not by a long shot. Ben, we just had company conflicts. Did you really have to push me to this point? Is it just about the company? Are you sure you really know nothing about Tina and Owen? Oscar suddenly realized why all these things happened recently. It was all because I planned it. Ben, it was you. I won't let you get away with this. I signaled to the bodyguards waiting in the distance to take control of the raging Oscar quickly. As for his threats against me, well, he can try when he gets that chance. I'll be waiting for that day. My business here was pretty much done. I handed over the company matters to my subordinates and headed back home for a visit. After Dad passed away, Mom returned to our country home, saying she wanted to spend the rest of her life there. I respected her wishes and let her be. Even so, I kept a close eye on her health and hired a private doctor to care for her. This time I came back unannounced. Before I reached the yard, I heard laughter. Opening the door, I saw a pretty woman chatting with my mom. They were laughing heartily. Unfortunately, my arrival broke up this cheerful moment. Mom waved me over, lovingly introducing the woman. You've always wanted to meet your savior, right? Here she is. Heaven sent her back to us. I was stunned. My savior? Based on what Mom said, I realized I had been fooled by Tina. It wasn't Tina who got me out of that basement. She was just the imposter who took everything from me. My real savior was Linda, the young lady we had just found. Later, as I lay in bed, I laughed bitterly. How foolish I was. Linda and I got along well, but I didn't pursue her. I was worried I might accidentally hurt her, given my past mistakes. That would be disrespectful to her. Thankfully, she didn't mind. We talked about everything: work, life. Life was peaceful, which was nice. I'd keep watching over her as my way of compensating for disrespecting her. But unexpectedly, it was Linda who broke the calm. Somewhere she had gone. She'd gotten incredibly drunk. I carried her home and she yanked my tie. Ben, why don't you like me? She asked. Her question made my heart race, my voice trembling. Who says I don't like you? I did like her. Things naturally progressed from there. Linda and I got together. As for why she got so drunk and asked those questions, she wouldn't tell me. And if I pressed, she'd just cling to me, and I'd give in easily. Before Linda and I were married, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Tina. Her voice was filled with pain and a sense of relief. Ben, I dreamt about you. In the dream, Oscar and I killed you. I even took out your family. I stayed silent. I felt like these things happened in a past life. I have this feeling, so this life I'm trying to atone for it. Lastly, I wish you and Linda a happy marriage. May you have many years together. Thank you. No matter if she meant it, I treated her words as a blessing. As for everything else, even if I knew, I wouldn't say more. Past is past. Why dwell on it?